Welcome to the Transform My Dance Studio podcast, powered by the Dance Studio Owners Association. Over the next 8 weeks, as we are thrilled to be welcoming the one and only Hillary Parnell as our guest host for a brand new series, Pliés to Profits. Hillary is the owner of Academy for the Performing Arts in North Carolina, and this very special series will give you an inside look into how Hillary has grown her dance studio as she shares her tips on building $1 million dance studio. In this season, Hillary will be diving into how she delegates tasks effectively, her less but better philosophy, how to bring in more revenue with less output, building community in your studio, and so much more. We hope you enjoy Pliés to Profits with Hillary Parnell.
Welcome back. I'm Hillary, and I have been fortunate enough to be your host for this series, and I've had such a great time sharing my story and my experiences with all of you. I am one of 3 growth coaches in the Dance Studio Owners Association, and I work with Clint Salter and his team to help studio owners around the world find balance while building a successful and thriving business. Over this season, we have talked about ways to create new revenue for your studio, cut costs across the board, lead your team, and find time for yourself. If you are just tuning in, you're definitely going to want to go back and catch up on all the tips included in those episodes to help you become the CEO of your company that you have always wanted to be. Now, today is my final episode of this season, and I have so many ideas on what I wanted to cover. So I basically decided to just cover it all. I'm calling this episode The Kitchen Sink, and I have just got a huge list of random thoughts that I have collected over the past week of things that I have learned over the past 20 years, things I wish I had known when I first started, things that you may have heard a million times before but haven't actually implemented, or things that maybe you just need as a reminder. I'm sure this list will only put a dent into the giant list of things that I have learned, but we've only got a short period of time together, and I want to make the most of it. So grab a pen and some paper. I'm going to go fast and just jot down anything that sparks your interest or rings true. Just maybe something that you might need to remember later. I hope everyone can get at least a few golden nuggets out of all of my ramblings for the next 20 minutes. And seriously, hold on for the ride. There is absolutely no order to this list, and I may sound like a complete crazy person, but that's the creative side of my brain taking over. It's going to be great. So here we go. Starting off with internet presence. You're going to want to make sure that you audit your own internet presence often. So many times people's websites get out of date, links stop working, pictures are unloaded, pretty much everything. So I would say at least every week or 2 weeks, you should have somebody, it does not have to be a high-paid employee, going through and spot checking all of your internet presence, your website, your social media, your email addresses, making sure that everything works because things stop working on the internet and that can make you look really unprofessional, especially if we're through this whole COVID period or a changeover from seasons where you may not want all of your summer stuff still on the website or it's all outdated or it's talking about recital from last year. All of that can look really unprofessional. Weekly, very bare minimum monthly, someone should be checking all of that for you. Next, this is a funny story I have about why we think nobody reads anything. So as a studio owner, as a business owner, I have heard thousands of people complain about how nobody reads. Nobody reads your emails. Nobody pays attention. How are these people functional? And I have a funny perspective story for you. One time, a couple years ago, I was at swim practice with my kids. Swim team usually starts in May. Well, guess what season that is for a dance studio owner, right? I'm deep in the throes of recital planning and recital conversation, and my whole world is thinking about the recital. And I'm sitting on a bench at the swimming pool with my kids, and I'm on my phone. I'm checking email and working, but I'm sure it looked like I was just perusing Facebook. And the swim coach walks over to me and she's like, "Hey, so good to see you. I'll see you guys tonight, right?" I looked at her like a deer in headlights. And I watched her entire body deflate as I said, why? Wait, what's tonight? She's like, our kickoff meet that we've been talking about for a month. And it all hit me like a ton of bricks. We are so obsessed with our own personal reality, which for us is dance, obviously, that we assume everyone else is too. In that moment, she was me and I was every other parent. I had no idea what she was talking about. Her emails had gotten pushed aside because other things were taking priority. And she felt like, oh my goodness, what is wrong with this woman? How could she not know that it's our first kickoff swim meet of the season? So in that moment, it put it all into perspective. Not everybody cares about dance as much as we do, and that's okay. It is our job to continue to remind them, to help them get the information. And when they don't know, say, I get it. You've got a million things going on. Maybe dance isn't your highest priority, but let me help you understand what's going on right now and what you need to know. Taking away that frustration and taking that onus back on yourself actually makes you so much less frustrated with everybody because you realize that it's not their fault. It's no one's fault. It's not your fault. It's just the reality. Next, remember that you are a role model and your staff and your teachers are a role model in everything that they do. Oftentimes we talk a lot about social media and not cussing in class and kind of the big things, but there are little things too, like not drinking a Red Bull in class every day. That's not exactly something that you want your 10-year-old dancers thinking is a healthy lifestyle habit, right? It's not a big thing and it's probably fine, but is that really what you want your kids seeing? Wouldn't it be better if you were always drinking water? Wouldn't it be better if you were not always eating Chick-fil-A on your way to class? We're trying to instill in kids healthy habits, and modeling that behavior is really important. So think all the way through what you are representing to your dancers and not just the big obvious things. And I talk about that a lot with my staff members about what they wear, making sure that they are showered, making sure that they are keeping themselves up in a respectable way. It's not just no cussing and not being drunk on Facebook, right? Pay for a cleaning crew that will do it right. That was one of the biggest mistakes I made for the first 15 years of my studio. I was always trying to pay a parent or, a one-person cleaning person who was overwhelmed. And it was constantly a battle for us. I felt guilty about telling them what they were doing wrong. They never quite did a good enough job. They would focus on the wrong things. Eventually, I pay almost $2,000 a month for my cleaning crew. There are 7 of them. They come in and out. They're like a machine. And when I'm not happy with something, I call their manager and they deal with it. And they come back and they do it right. It has taken such a weight off of my shoulders that it is 1,000% worth it. And again, I have a large space, so it might not be $2,000 for you, but whatever amount it is, that is one expense that I believe is 100% worth it. Find a way to pay for it. Stagger the beginning of your classes so that your parking lot and your lobby traffic is minimized, right? It puts a huge strain on parents when they're showing up at the exact same time of all of your classes. We have 7 classrooms, and if they all started at exactly 4:30, it would be a nightmare in the lobby and in the parking lot. So stagger those 15 minutes, just a couple classes at a time, will alleviate tons and tons of stress for both your staff and your parents and make everybody happy. Don't put all the information in all the places. This is a weird one. Right now, we are in an interesting time where we have so many outlets for information. If you start thinking about it, it's kind of ridiculous. There are old school ways like a whiteboard in the lobby, signage in the lobby, signage outside your building, email. Then you've got newer ways like Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, YouTube. I don't even know. Then you've got even more aggressive ways like Facebook Messenger, texting, bots, right? The problem is, unless you are ridiculously diligent about making sure that every single piece of information that you put out is in every single place, people are going to miss it because parents are building a habit of always going to the same place. So you've got Facebook parents who think that they're getting all of the information on your Facebook page or in your Facebook group even. You've got other parents who are waiting for the information to come in an email. You've got other parents who are reading nothing, and if it doesn't come in a text, they're not going to see it. So unless you know that you're putting everything equally relevant in all of the places, you're going to miss people and people are going to be upset. If you have ever had a holiday where classes were canceled and 5 or 6 people showed up for class, that's how you know you're doing something wrong. And it's not them. Remember, we talked about this. It's not that they didn't read. It's that they didn't read the information you gave them in the right place. So we've created a sheet that helps us identify what information goes where. And it's a really, really valuable tool in our office. So basically, it identifies a piece of information as either fun information, relatively important information, or extremely important information. If it's fun information, it goes on certain platforms. And it doesn't matter if everybody reads it. It's just fun information. Like if we're telling people that so-and-so got into a specific college or some teacher is having a birthday, that's fun information that it doesn't really matter if everybody sees. If it's relatively important information, like it's tights ordering week or sweatshirts are on sale for the holiday performance, that goes on more of the platforms. And if it is information that is extremely important, like classes are canceled, costume money is due, holidays are coming up, spring break is this date to this date, and everyone needs to know it, it is given that tag and it goes on every platform so that we are 100% sure that everyone will see it. Then in the rare case that somebody comes to the studio and says, I didn't know this, then we can pull out this piece of paper that says, well, I'm sorry, we actually posted that on these 9 platforms. And if you didn't see that, maybe we have the wrong email address for you and wrong phone number. And then the onus is definitely put back on the customer if they're really just ignoring you, which is a completely different thing. Or maybe you do have the wrong information on them and there's a problem and we can catch it that way. But using this process has almost eliminated people not knowing what's going on. All right, next. Create the expectations for the events, and parents, like sheep, will believe that they are true. So this goes into play for, let's say, rehearsal week. You know that rehearsal week can be chaotic. You know that music might not be right, people might not show up, props might get lost. Rehearsal's always just a crazy, crazy time. So let's say you're mid-rehearsal and a parent walks up to you and is like, hey, we're so excited. How's it going? You have 2 options in that moment. You can say, ugh, we lost these boxes. Some teacher didn't show up. The techie is horrible and the air conditioner is broken. Or you can say, oh my gosh, everything is running so smooth. I have the best team. I can't even believe how lucky I am to work under these conditions. Right? That mom does not know any of the truths that happened to you earlier in the day. All that mom knows is what you tell her. And that mom is going to turn around and talk to her friends. And that mom is going to turn around and have a mood based on what you told her. So you have the power to dictate how the rest of that day goes simply in your response to that question. I see it happen over and over again. It's self-fulfilling prophecy. So keep the mood light, keep the information positive, and it will eventually turn the day for you. And people will walk away thinking, wow, they've got everything so organized and they really have it together. I love this company. I can't believe I've ever been anywhere else, right? It's all in how you sell it and the manipulation of the information. I'm really good at that. Be on time. I know that sounds so silly and obvious, but I have found in the past 20 years that people who don't have kids don't tend to respect parents' time as much as people who do. That could be a overly stated stereotype, and I apologize if I've offended anyone in that, but it tends to be a trend with people that I work with, that people who do not understand that a mother's schedule is extremely tight in dealing with different siblings and parents and grandparents and babysitters picking up and dropping off, don't seem to understand how important it is to stay on time. If you have the ability to start on time and end on time, you will gain the respect of every mother in your business. And for the most part, every one of your customers is a mother, right? So if you don't take that seriously, or if you are one of the people that you always say, oh, I'm always running late, or oh, every rehearsal runs after, you are looking unprofessional and frustrating a lot of parents. And it is possible. I know people say, well, how can you possibly run rehearsals on time? You don't know how long it's going to take. I do. It's not worth it. We start on time on the minute and we end on the minute every single time. And people know that about us. And we get so many comments of appreciation because most industries, most other activities are not as respectful of people's time. And it becomes a really big positive for our parents. So keep that in mind. It's just dance. And this one's a little bit counterintuitive too. I mean, you want to say, it's not just dance, it's my life, it's my livelihood, it's everything to me. Sure. Yes. But in perspective, we're not brain surgeons. We're not heart surgeons. Anything that happens on a given day in our building is typically not going to result in a life or death outcome. So turn off your phone at night. You do not need to talk to Susie's mom at 11:30 because she's upset that she was in the back row. She'll be okay. It's going to be okay. It's just dance. The sooner you can kind of wrap your brain around that in the most healthy way possible, you will realize a new certain amount of freedom. It's important to put that into perspective. I no longer have those moments of gut punching realities when people call me or text me in the middle of the night. Anything that is emailed or texted can be dealt with the next day. And it's going to be okay. And that doesn't mean you don't care. And that doesn't mean you don't take it seriously. It just means that you have perspective. Err on the side of conservative. We've all been there. We've all done it. When I was younger, we want to push the envelope. I definitely did a song that had the words, my anaconda don't want none unless you got buns, hun. And I regret it. I thought it was fun. I thought it was innuendo. It wasn't. It was inappropriate. Don't go there. Parents will appreciate it. You will get way more customers by saying we don't show our midriff for recreational classes. We don't listen to explicit music, even with the words bleeped out, because we all know what is under the f and the k in a song, right? There's just no reason to go there. There's so much more music in the world. There's so many more costumes in the world. It's just an unnecessary fight that you can still be the best choreographer and the best teacher and the most innovative dance mind on the planet without having to be scandalous. It's just really not necessary. Yeah, my rule of thumb is I have 2 rules around appropriateness. 1, if you would be embarrassed for your grandfather to see it, it's a no. And 2, if you have to ask, it's a no. So if a teacher comes to me and is like, I don't know, this song kind of sounds a little bit, then it's a no. If it doesn't cross your mind, you're fine. Other random things, stamps are better than stickers because they don't fall off. I know that's silly. Or put stickers on the bottom of their tap shoes. We love that for little kids. Using scrunchies on the right foot so that you can work on pivot turns. Using stickers on their shoes for the right foot to work on different things. We always let parents come in and record their own practice videos. We used to go through this whole elaborate process of recording them all ourselves and uploading them to certain websites. We had a whole YouTube channel for it, only to realize that maybe 10 people log on and actually watch them. So we just have a parent viewing day early in the spring when all the dances are finished, where the parents can all come in, they line up at the back of the room and they record from the back. We ask them to make sure that they get the teacher in the shot. Then they have their own practice video on their camera, on their phone, and it's so much easier. So it's also a great time. We usually do that the same week where we have the parents come in and we pass out recital costumes and we do a whole recital Q&A. And it's just really, really great for getting those parents involved and all of their questions answered in one giant event rather than 1 million emails. So works great. Always record from the back. If you don't know that, kids actually can learn things in reverse and get really, really confused. Obviously, and I know everyone does some sort of covering of the mirrors near recital time, but we've tried all different kinds of things and they really do all work. Cover them with paper and have the kids color on them. Cover them with a curtain. Don't cover them and have them turn around and practice actually getting better at spatial awareness. We sometimes switch rooms and face the back for better spatial awareness. All kinds of ways you can get them to know their dances without their teacher. Rehearsal for recital. Did you know you don't have to practice the recital in order? I find that most people don't ever think of that. But for me, it's more important to not have a whole set of parents sitting there for 6 hours while we have rehearsal. So we just rehearse their dances back to back and let them leave and take our tech notes for each dance, and it's fine. The rehearsal doesn't have to happen in order unless you're running, of course, a full show. If you're doing Swan Lake or The Little Mermaid or something like that, you may want to rehearse that in actual order. But if your recital is just a bunch of dances, let your kids come in for an hour and leave, and it was so much easier. Decide early in your business if you are going to be a fun studio or a serious studio. Again, that may sound like either something that's obvious or something that you don't think you have to do or that you can be both. And I'll tell you why it was important to us. About 10, 12, 13 years in, we kind of hit a plateau and a wall. And I did a lot of soul searching and surveys and talking to parents to try to figure out what was going on. And it turns out that what was happening is that we were confusing our audience because we were one of the most expensive studios because we are the best. We have the best communication, the most professional staff, the best facility here locally, and we offer the most classes. And really, I mean, we're just the strongest studio in the area. So of course we were positioned to charge the most or right at the top of our local competition. But all of our advertising talked about being fun. We talked about being the fun studio, that how we don't take ourselves too seriously. We don't require a dress code. We don't have, they don't have to wear their hair in a bun until they're in higher level ballet classes, all of that. And so parents were confused. Like, if you're so fun, I still don't want my 4-year-old to come try this fun thing and pay so much money per month. Like, okay, that does make a little bit of sense, right? If we're going to be the fun studio, we should charge accordingly. And I didn't want to charge accordingly. I wanted to charge the most to, afford our facility and our staff and all the things that were going into making us so great. So we kind of flipped our advertising and stopped saying we were fun and started focusing more on our core values, on what dance brings to a child, the self-confidence and the leadership opportunities and all of the discipline skills that come along with it. And lo and behold, we started having more recreational students who wanted to take dance seriously. We moved to a progressive schedule, which allowed kids to take 2 sections of a jazz class or a higher level jazz with a ballet requirement, Also adding in a dress code for those higher levels. And before I knew it, not being the fun studio made everything make sense. So now we don't say we're a fun studio. We pride ourselves in being a serious pre-professional studio, and we are getting more students and making more money. So not to say that we could not have done as well if we had maintained being a fun studio. So your studio may want to be low key and casual and have that kind of vibe. That's fine. Just make sure that you're consistent, because I wasn't. And that was a hard lesson to learn. And I'm glad I did, because now things are much more, they make more sense, if that makes sense. Turning pages here, surprise your teachers often. Treat your teachers like customers. It helps with their retention, and teacher retention is huge. If you have a staff that stays with you from year to year, you can really build upon what they know and make them little U's, right? And as long as you have a lot of little U's in the classrooms, you can take yourself out. But if your staff is constantly turning over, then you have to retrain, you have to stay focused on them, and it doesn't allow you to focus on other parts of your business. So surprise them, give them little treats, keep them motivated, mentor them, find out what their goals are and work with them, give them evaluations to help them become better teachers, keep them engaged, and you will benefit in the long run. Okay. Okay. Next up, are you journaling with your kids often? Now, this is extra and above and beyond, but 99% of our kids are not going on to careers in dance. And we all know that. And teachers all over the world talk about how they know that we're there to help create better humans and not just dancers, and that we're teaching to the whole child and all of that. And we talk a really big game, right? But how many of you are offering a consistent outlet for your dancers to express their emotional and mental well-being, right? We journal with our competitive kids weekly and have activities and journal prompts that they have to really get in touch with that other half of their well-being, which is the emotional side and the social side, and everything from getting along with their peers to how to prepare for their interviews and how to speak on a microphone. And there are just so many other parts to what we do. And we make sure that we have carved out a time every single week to do that with our kids, so that it's not sporadic and it's not after the fact or reactionary when things rise up as issues. So what we've really found by doing it weekly and consistently is that we have a really open line of communication with our kids. They feel comfortable talking to each other and talking to their teachers. And we've been able to nip a lot of things in the bud. So serious things like cutting or eating disorders or abusive relationships, we have been able to really identify and help through before they become a major issue. I've also believed that our journaling with the kids and that time that we have with them every single week has helped us be a relatively drama-free studio. We don't tolerate it on one hand from parents, but from our kids, they have such a healthy relationship and a place to bring up conflict and conflict resolution that we ultimately don't really have any issues. And that's taken some years to get to that point. And we definitely see a little bit of an influx when we have new competitive dancers join us later in life, like when they're a little bit older. But very soon they realize that this is not a place for that, and they kind of join the group, and it's amazing. So if you're not journaling with your kids, I highly encourage you to. I use a program that I've built called Dancers in Balance. I've got a whole website and stuff if you want to look it up, but I really encourage you to do anything with your kids that will help kind of address their emotional and mental well-being as well as the physical. Okay, next up, outsource what you're not good at and do things in-house that you are good at. That sounds really obvious, but have you ever made a list? When you're in groups and Facebook groups and mastermind groups, you're seeing people that are doing all kinds of things, and everything is shiny and there's so many good ideas, but not everything is a good fit for you or your studio or your staff. So for instance, one big thing that we do in-house that most people would never take on are our picture week and our own videography of the recital. So I realized early on that that's something that I would be interested in learning. And I now consider myself a photographer after 12 years of doing it. I love it. And we brought our whole photography program in-house. That's another program that I have, if you're interested in, called Dance Photo Pro. And you can go to the website and look that up. But that's something that we do that makes us a huge amount of revenue every year and doesn't kill us, essentially. Doesn't stress out the staff. It's not something that we hate doing. On the flip side, many studios are really, really lucrative with birthday parties, and I hate them. My staff hates them. We had a hard time ever finding people to do them. They were not making us very much money. We are in competition with a million other kinds of activities that do birthday parties. And so we decided to outsource those. So I only make a small percentage off of our birthday parties, and a local party planning company does them for us. So just take a good look at what your options are, and don't do things you aren't good at or don't want to, and do things that maybe you could be and save some money and make some money. All right, next up, success doesn't lie in comfort. It's one of Clint's favorite quotes, and one that we have all heard a million times, and is more true than anything else anyone has ever said. Success does not lie in comfort. You know that something's going to be good for you if it makes you a little bit sick to the stomach, right? Do the things that are hard. Talk to the people. Do the networking. Fire the people. Do the things that are scary. That's where your success is going to come. You don't have to tape your Marley. This one is so silly. But I see so many pictures of taped Marley, and I just want to tell the whole wide world that you don't have to. You can have your Marley heat sealed. So unless it's Marley that you're picking up and taking with you every week, a flooring company can come in and seal your Marley with some sort of plastic tubing. I don't even know. And you never, ever, ever have to tape it again, and it looks beautiful. So please stop taping your Marley. Don't be a martyr. There's nothing beneficial about killing yourself for this job. Staying at work until 2:00 in the morning does not make it any more legitimate. It only means that you're bad at delegating. Find a way to be more successful with your time management, and find success and find legitimacy for yourself in taking a day off and realizing that that is what makes you successful. Dying for your business doesn't help anyone. So do your workouts, eat healthy, get your sleep. That's the best way you can be a good leader and a good CEO for your business. I teach a 5-minute rule for disappointment. This goes for my dancers, my teachers, my own children. But 5-minute rule means that if you screw up, let's say on stage, whether it be recital, whether it be in class, whether it be at a competition, you totally screwed up. You fell, you forgot a part, you went the wrong direction, doesn't matter. And you come off stage, you should be disappointed. That's life. That's normal. That's healthy. You screwed up, right? You should be disappointed. If you're not, that means you don't care, and that's a whole different conversation. But I tell everyone you get 5 minutes. Go to the bathroom, cry your eyeballs out, go throw something, scream at a pillow, do whatever you need to do for 5 minutes, and then it's done. Because it doesn't serve anybody for you to continue to pout for the entire day. The reason why this is successful with my kids is because it gives them permission to have the feelings in the first place, but tells them that you need to wrap it up because you owe it to your team to move forward. It works great. It really does. Whole brain teaching, Google it. If you're not already teaching to the whole brain of children, you have a lot to learn about that, and it's amazing and life-changing. It basically helps you understand as a teacher and educator how to address all different learning styles. Basically, people learn either through visual cues, auditory cues, or kinesthetically, meaning that they have to do it. As a teacher, even to very, very little ones, you probably say the steps, show the steps, and have them try the steps. But if you're not actively teaching with that in mind, oftentimes teachers will get in a habit of being one or the other and teaching only to 1/3 of your students. So if you can go back in and remind yourself to teach to all 3 learning styles, you will be much more successful as a teacher and have more students who know what's going on. Love languages are another great way to work with your staff and make sure that you are building retention with them and making a work environment that they appreciate. Not everybody is going to be motivated by money. Not everyone's going to be motivated by praise. Not everyone's going to be motivated by gifts or your time. But if you can identify which ones on your staff are, then you can cater your relationship with them a little bit and make your impact even more powerful. So it's a great activity to do. There's a link on Google. You can find it to do a little quiz to figure out what your love language is, and then have your staff turn that into you and use it. Kids are more capable than most adults give them credit for. Your mentoring and leadership really should not end in the classroom. If you have assistants, student teachers or classroom assistants, hold them accountable, make them clock in, have them take attendance, have them find their own subs. We have all of ours on a WhatsApp, just like our teachers are. If you have an intern, see if there's something more that they can do besides alphabetizing papers or cutting things. I had an intern actually create and run our entire cafe, and she had to turn in inventory reports and P&Ls at the end of every week and price her items and put things on sale. And it was an amazing experience for her and me, and felt so much more rewarding than having an intern who I had to think every day, okay, gosh, what is she going to do? Can she clean out the junk drawer? It was amazing. So think about how you can really use your interns and your assistants and give them credit, because they can do amazing things. People talk a lot about student teachers and whether or not high schoolers should teach in your classroom. And I have a very strong opinion about this. My answer is yes, but only if it is deliberate, designed, and built throughout a program that you can explain, praise, and sell to parents. If you are having 14, 15, 16, 17-year-olds teaching class because you can't find a good enough teacher, or you are desperate and you are throwing them in, then no, you definitely 100,000% should not have teenagers teaching your classes. If you are raising teachers through an assistant program and workshop trainings, seminars, apprenticeships, and evaluations, then 100,000% yes, you can have teenagers teaching your classes. Our program starts in 5th grade and it works all the way up through senior year in high school. There are tests, there are recommendations, there are exams, there are interviews, there are all of the things that lead to my 17-year-old teachers oftentimes being the best staff members I have. And I can sell that and explain it to a parent in such a way that by the end of that conversation, they are desperate to have my 17-year-old teachers because they see the value in them. So think about that. Yes, pay all 3 licensing companies, CSAC, ASCAP, and BMI. I thought it was a scam too. Took me like 3 years of them harassing me to finally realize that it's a real thing and we should be doing it. But yes. Don't waver on your decisions. Again, these sound so obvious, but for years I would. And oftentimes I see major corporations doing it and failing. Right now, our school system in our area, it's one of the largest school systems in the country. And they will make a decision and people will complain. And so they'll change their mind. And then guess what? All the other people will complain. There's no right answer when you're dealing with large groups of people. Put it this way. let's say you have 100 kids in a group. Let's say it's your performance group, and you decide to have a rehearsal on a Friday night, and you have 20 people complain about that Friday night rehearsal, right? The other 80 people have no reason to email you and say, thank you so much for this Friday rehearsal. It works great in my schedule, right? They're not going to tell you that. There's no reason for them to tell you that. People don't go out of their way to tell you they're happy. They only go out of their way to tell you they're not happy. So you hear these 20 people, you're like, oh, darn it, that's a bad time. We're going to change it to Saturday. So you go in, you change that rehearsal to Saturday. Well, guess what? All 80 people that were happy with Friday are now mad about Saturday, and you've just made a disaster. So remember, make a decision that makes sense to you, that works for you, and unless 80% of people are unhappy with the decision, don't waver, don't change it, because you're only going to make the other people who were happy now angry. It's crazy that it took me a very long time to figure that out. So now we don't waver. We don't make decisions after complaints. We stick to whatever decision we come up with, and we make it based on what makes the most sense for my staff. And finally, I can't believe I'm at the end of this gigantic list, and I hope you're still with me. I'm going to just plug for a quick second to join a mastermind group. Of course, I'm a huge advocate for the Dance Studio Owners Association, the DSOA, and the Inner Circle. But it doesn't have to be that. It can be any group that feels right to you. Do their free trainings, listen to their free webinars, find a group and a person that resonates with you and that you feel like gets you, and work with them. We all need help. And more so, these groups offer a community. Being a studio owner and a business owner can be a very lonely job. No one quite understands what you're going through. And the sooner you can get with a group of people that you can share questions and revelations and ideas with, the easier your road will be. So I highly encourage you to find a group and to move forward with them. So that's it. That's my giant, crazy list of random pieces of knowledge that I've collected over 20 years. I am so excited to have our 20th anniversary recital this year. And, hopefully I am open to learning another giant list worth of information over the next 20 years. And I can just keep sharing that with all of you. I have had such a blast. Again, my name is Hillary. I am a growth coach in the DSOA, and I look forward to getting to know more of you through that program. If any of you have any questions, please reach out to that group, and we would love to help you. I'll talk to you guys again soon.
We hope you enjoyed this week's episode of Pliés to Profits on the Transform My Dance Studio podcast. You can learn more about Hillary, plus the behind-the-scenes stories from 19 other successful dance studio owners from around the globe in our brand new book, Dance Studio Secrets: 65 Ways to Build a Thriving Studio, is now available on Kindle and paperback from Amazon.com. See you next week for a new episode with our special guest host, Hillary Parnell.